Hello and welcome to another Game Nexus arcade video. Today we're going to be taking a look at Dynamite Cop, released in 1998 for the Sega Model 2 hardware. As you see, there are three characters available: Bruno Delinger, Gene Ivy, and Eddie Brown. I'm going to be playing as Bruno Delinger in Mission 1 in this gameplay. And basically, as opposed to the first game, which was known as Die Hard Arcade in America, this game takes place on a cruise ship, whereas Die Hard Arcade or Dynamite Deca took place on in a building, which is why in the American version they decided to call it Die Hard Arcade, because they could easily say, hey, it looks like Die Hard. And now, just like the first game, this is a beat 'em up with three buttons: punch, kick, and jump. I find that the jump button comes in handy every once in a while, but it's not as useful as a button as the two strikes. And you'll probably see, I believe it's after this battle here, and you see me there trying to kick the girl behind the bar, but you can't get her until she jumps out. But this game has the same caution mechanic as Dynamite Deca did. And of course, if you had seen my other video, I also showed off the Sega Ages Dynamite Deca version, which had a upgraded graphics and sound style. And you definitely gotta like that the Sega Blast City arcade cabinet actually creates a blast when you throw it at people. And I still could remember when I first saw this guy, I was thinking, what is he, supposed to be some sort of Ninja Turtle or something? Because whenever I see someone with the turtle shell, I always think like Ninja Turtle. And those look like some sort of skiing arcade game over to the right there. I really can't read what they actually say on them. And that's one thing that's really cool about this game, is all the little weapons and stuff that you can pick up. Okay, here's your first caution. And this one is just left, which I'll tell you right now, it's going to be a bit of a spoiler, but I actually succeed in all the cautions in this playthrough here. Because I actually found that, of course, unlike the Dynamite Deca PlayStation 2 Japanese version, they're all in English, so it'll say punch, kick, left, right. Jump, I think, was one of them. So, you have plenty of time to react. And of course, for fans of the Dreamcast version of Dynamite Cop, you might notice the graphics don't look as sharp, but in my personal opinion, I think they look really good, considering this is running on the same hardware that ran Virtua Fighter 2. The only big difference between the Model 2 version A, B, and C, of course, as I'd mentioned in my Model 2 Changing Games video, the Model 2A board used a CPU board and a video board along with your game ROM board, which is the one that has all the game ROMs on it. Whereas Model 2B and Model 2C both only used one combined board that had all the CPUs and GPUs on it, which is what I'm actually running this on and what I ran Fighting Vipers on. So, yeah, if you didn't see my previous videos, this is all running on the original hardware. No emulation is being used here. And just like my usual setup, this goes into the Elgato. I mean, this goes...
Hurry up with that bomb! And where is that girl? Find her and bring her to me.
This goes into the GBS 8200, and then into the VGA 2 HDMI upscaler, then into the Elgato, and that's how I capture such a nice crisp image. The upscaler takes it from the 1024 by 768 to the 720p, and then I just basically take the image and I squish it down a little bit so it's back in its full frame aspect ratio, since I probably had mentioned it a few times, but that upscaler for the VGA to HDMI actually kind of stretches everything out. Because I actually had somebody who asked me, how do I get such a crisp video quality out of an actual arcade game? And I had some people actually think that I was running this on an emulator, but I'm not. And that's one thing I thought was a graphical glitch when I first saw this game, is the red flashing shadows, but that's just how they should be. And there's one in one of the next scenes where it's kick and you're actually just sliding under something, which I thought was kind of weird that that was kick. And yeah, it's really cool when you just like pick up a chair and just throw it at your enemies. It's just really cool in my opinion. And now I'm not sure if this is right, but the main history.dat, let me just pull that up right here, says that the Japanese version of this game is actually called Dynamite Deca 2 Karibu no Kaizoku Hen, which, according to Google Translate, translates to Dynamite Deca 2 Strange Pirates of Caribbean. I don't know if that's right at all, but I just figured I'd throw that out there because it just seems kind of weird, but... And of course, since I have this on free play, I don't have to insert any coins. Now, you'll notice this guy that I'm beating up with who's holding the guns, he has something I like to call a perma weapon, which means even if you knock him down, he won't drop his weapons because they're actually part of his character model. Whereas opposed to a lot of characters that'll like bring just a sword or a gun, where if you knock them down once, they will actually drop the weapon. So you gotta be careful with this guy and keep on him, or he will just start machine gunning you all of a sudden. There are some characters in one of the later rooms which actually have swords. And now with any of the cautions, a lot of them, if you fail, you just have to end up stopping there and fighting whichever enemy you kick, punch, or otherwise. I think this is the room where you'll see some of the characters that have the sword perma weapons after I defeat the first few here. And I definitely like how you can like really beat up on the enemies by like, he'll get on the ground and he'll just start beating them, which is really cool. And that's one thing I like about this game with the two characters, the three characters. They have much different ways of fighting, which you will see in my next two videos of this series. I'm not going to have them all be on top of each other. There'll be some space, but this one will be Mission 1. Here's the characters with the perma swords I was mentioning. They will not drop their swords even if they're knocked down a lot of times, and that's a bit of an annoying thing if they just start going crazy and slashing you. So you have to try to defeat them first before anybody else, but the next video of this game will be Mission 2 with Gene Ivy, and then Mission 3 with Eddie Brown. They all have a very unique play style, which is really cool because it doesn't feel like you're just playing the same game over again with just like a different looking character like in some games. Now here's another caution. This is the one I was telling you about that was kicked, but you're just sliding. Now if you like kind of slid like legs first, I'd understand it being kicked because you're kind of kicking through. Now if I recall correctly, this fight actually differs in some of the missions. Like in one of the missions, it's actually a big Japanese guy and there's all kinds of fish in the room because he's like a sushi chef. But this guy's like your stereotypical big chef guy. And he throws bombs at you, of course. And something to make note of is that Bruno Delinger makes a cameo appearance in House of the Dead 2 as a playable character via a special item obtainable in original mode, which is present in the home versions of House of the Dead 2 and no other versions, which is actually kind of a cool little nod. And also Bruno Delinger makes an appearance in Project X Zone as a solo unit character. And another quick thing of note is a chicken leg from Golden Axe makes a cameo appearance on the island stage here, which is actually pretty cool. And now, as I had mentioned, the only actual home port of this was the Dreamcast. This came out in 1998 in Japan, and then it was not until 1999 that it got released internationally. The Dreamcast version got released like this. The Japanese version came out May 27th of 1999. The North American version came out October 31st of 1999, and then the European version came out October 14th of 1999. And in any of these games, these really like big characters, they will like beat you really bad if you're not careful, because they're much stronger than you. I won't say faster, but much stronger.
Haven't you found her yet? Never mind. It's time.
And it's just cool that you have all these stages like in the cruise ship instead of having just like you're on the ship and then you leave the ship and then you go somewhere else. It's a really cool thing. And just in case you're wondering, the bad guy in this is actually Wolf Whitefang Hongo, who is the actual main antagonist from the first game. He just has like a cybernetic implant in his head, which is kind of weird. And kind of like how you had deep scan in the Sega Saturn version of Die Hard Arcade, in the Dreamcast version of Dynamite Cop, you have a 1980 Sega game called Tranquilizer Gun, which is just like with Deep Scan, it's made for earning credits for the Dreamcast version. And clearing all missions will enable you to play Tranquilizer Gun an unlimited number of times. So if you really like that game a lot, you can play it quite a bit. That's one thing I think is hilarious when he kicks the guy in the nads and he just makes that like ooh sound. It's just one of the hilarious things. He'll be like ooh, like wow, he was such a tough guy, and all of a sudden he's no longer tough anymore. And now the whole you're like under arrest thing, I probably mentioned it in the Die Hard Arcade videos, but it seems like when you have the guy in a certain, when you press a certain button, it will actually cause this to happen. And that's more or less like a one-shot kill, which will arrest the guy, and therefore you don't have to fight him anymore. And now if I recall correctly, these bosses actually changed some of the missions as well. They're like these weird guys with like crabs on their back. And I don't know if I had made mention of it in other videos, but this was also another one of those games that I had played on that cruise ship in 2001. Not as much as Gauntlet, but it was one of those games that the first time I actually saw it was on that cruise ship, and I had previously not seen this game at all.
Let's go.
Now here's the next caution, which is just left. And the cool part is if you do it wrong, you'll see what you did wrong, because on the bottom left corner there, it will actually tell you what you actually pressed. So let's say I pressed kick instead of left, it'll say kick down there, and then I'll realize that, yeah, that's how I messed up this, this caution part, is I pressed kick instead of left. So that's why I ended up getting hurt. Oh, and just to be completely exact here, according to the history.dat, this game was released in June of 1998 in Japan. And just as I had mentioned in my Switching Games in Model 2 video, this game was released on Model 2 A, B, and C. So, as long as you don't have one of the old school Daytona units that was the, what was called just the regular Model 2 hardware, you could get a version of this game to upgrade all of the, any of the Model 2 arcade games in your arcade. You just have to make sure you get the proper set. So if you're trying to upgrade Virtua Fighter 2, make sure you get the Model 2A set. Because the Model 2B set that I have here will not work, of course, because the Model 2A hardware is slightly different. And of course, me here, when I was playing this, I didn't realize how the whole fire thing worked. I didn't realize it kind of like goes from one row to the other to the other. And before, what you had seen there is I was in the middle of arresting a guy, and the other guy ended up attacking me. So it like negated the whole arrest thing. And of course, the whole thing with the losing clothes kind of mimics that whole thing in Die Hard, where Bruce Willis, his like clothes kind of got worn down as the movie went on. And I think that's kind of a cool touch here. And as you beat up on the Kraken here, he will actually like spout his little minions. And this game is especially fun if you have another player to play. But that then again goes with any beat-em-up game. It just gets an extra level of fun because you have somebody else to play the game with. The only way this could have been cooler is if it was a 3-player game and 3 players could play at any given time. But I would imagine if they had done that, they probably would have ended up putting more than 3 characters, because the problem there would be once player 1 selected, player 2 could still choose another character, but once player 2 selected, unless you wanted to have doubles, player 3 could only be 1 character then. And of course, a lot of times when I see these like octopus or krakens in these games, it always makes me think of some other game, like in the Air Gates quest mode. There is a octopus creature. I don't remember if he was a kraken or an octopus or if it even mentioned. But when you fall down the well, or I think it's like floor 11 or 13, you will get to this boss, and if you beat him, you will actually be able to play the game, basically start the dungeon from that level by just going into the well, which is actually pretty convenient. But it's always funny with games, if there's a big boss like that, yeah, if there's a big boss like that, basically what will happen is, if it's like a similar one from other games, I'll kind of get reminded of other games I've played who have had a boss like this. Oh, and there's the character from Golden Axe. Apparently that character is called a chicken leg, which that's one of the mountable beasts from Golden Axe. And if you have the Sega, yeah, there it says, it even says on there chicken leg, because I guess it's supposed to be a store where you can buy them. But if you have the actual Sega Ages collection released in America on the PlayStation 2, there actually is a 3D version, which the only problem with the 3D version is it's one of those things. You're either gonna love it or hate it. I've not heard many people have a middle ground. Me myself, I think all the Sega Ages games, especially ones that were enhanced to a specific extent, were actually pretty cool. Now, mind you, they're not the best versions of games, but it's just kind of cool to have a more modern version of these games. And the funny part in this, you'll probably see it as I fight this guy eventually, but one of the characters just ends up going into the pendulum and getting hurt. So I'm thinking the AI kind of didn't know what it... Yeah, there he is. He was trying to pick up a weapon, but wasn't, like, really fearing for his own safety. And now the way that P system works is when you get enough of those, your character powers up and is able to do more powerful and quick moves. And like with Bruno here, he'll do a lot of like suplexes and stuff that'll be like done in quick succession by pressing the punch button when you have a character grabbed. So it's a pretty cool mechanic, so you can really pour it on, especially when it comes to bosses. I think I did that a bit on the chef boss earlier. And that's one thing that's a bit annoying with these tribe guys, that they will die and then they will turn into two characters. So that's one thing that was kind of funny, is my character actually arrested one of them, and it works on like a like tribe guy, because you know they wouldn't necessarily adhere to like police law, so why would he really like bow to freeze and stop? You think he would keep fighting with the handcuffs on. And now this level is actually kind of cool because it has it has the slot machine, which can dispense a bunch of things when you punch it, which will basically trigger it to start rolling down. And then I know at one point in this play, I actually end up winning something in the slot machine. And I always think it's cool when Sega throws little touches like that in their games. It makes me think of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 in the Casino Night Zone, when you could jump into the slot machine thing and get either more rings or lose rings. And you'll see me kind of purposefully hitting the slot machine because I want to see if I could win anything in it. And now these guys that I'm fighting now, there actually was one of them earlier during one of the caution segments that I ended up just kicking and I didn't have to fight him. And I may be wrong, but I do recall in one of the other playthroughs, like if you do it on a different mission, there's different guys here. And that's another thing that keeps this fresh, that you're not fighting the same guys if you decide to play the game over again. Because I always hate that when developers lazy and they're like, you know what, we're gonna like give you 3 choices, but they're all basically gonna be the same. So it's always good to see stuff get changed up. And now there's the silly shark guy that you would have ended up having to fight. I think there's 1 or 2 more cautions, but as I said, I was able to get through all of them without actually making a mistake, which I think in some of my Die Hard Arcade / Dynamite Deca videos, I actually did make a mistake. And these tribal guys kind of remind me of that whole like Day of the Dead motif with like the skeletons on their legs, the bones on their legs and everything. And now one thing to make mention of about the whole like arrest thing, I probably made mention of it in the other videos for the earlier games, but the whole arresting people is only possible if your character has a handgun. So you can't arrest people unless you have a handgun. That's why if you have a handgun and you pick up another weapon, the handgun just goes into your inventory, which is actually pretty cool. And now this part I thought was kind of weird, that it's a tribal guy with permaguns in his hands. You would think if anything he would have like a permanent bow and arrow or a permanent spear, like some weapon that a tribal guy would actually have. Not just like random guns, because that makes you think, what are the bad guys working with the tribal guys? So they're like, hey, chief, here's your guns. And then they would have to like train him how to use them, because I'd imagine most guys in some African tribe wouldn't know how to use machine guns. And that's one thing you have to watch out for. Certain times when he falls down, he'll flip over and just shoot his guns. So if you're in his path, he will get you. And just like with Fighting Vipers and Virtua Fighter 2, the backgrounds are actually done in full 3D in this, which is a really nice touch. Which I'm guessing if they had ported this to the Sega Saturn, which unfortunately at the time of this game being made, the Sega Saturn was kind of dead. They probably would have had to make it that whole weird Virtua Fighter 2 effect. And if you're wondering why the counter counted down so much on that continue screen, the computer that was recording this, which is one of my laptops, I actually had to plug the power in at that point or it was going to die, and I didn't want it to die when I was so close to the end here.
Watch out!
Stupid fools! Your captain is long dead. He's fish bait by now.
And of course, as you see, you find out that your captain is long dead, and that's just some guy, like, disguised of him, as calls him Masked de Pedro. So he's just, like, masquerading as your captain. He's not really your captain. I can remember when I first actually got here, which was actually in the arcade version, as I've never really gone too far into the Dreamcast version and actually played that game that you can play to get more continues. I've never gotten like this far in that. I've only gotten far in this. In fact, the first night I actually got this board and hooked it up, I actually played through all 3 playthroughs of this. Unfortunately, I didn't record them, which I really should have. But I played through all 3 playthroughs with all 3 characters. That's where I got the idea to do it this way for the actual videos. And now, he's not too hard of a character, except for the fact that he starts with an axe that he will try to kill you with.
Help me!
So there you are. I've been expecting you. I have changed my body to destroy you. Now, let's have some fun.
And you'll see here that the boss character from the previous game got a bit of an upgrade in order to destroy you, as he said. He's not really that bad, but later on in the fight, when he starts doing his machine gun thing a lot more, it really gets annoying, and you really have to try to dodge him, which is not always the easiest thing. And that's how you know he's going to do the machine gun thing, is when he twirls around like that. And usually it will happen if you really try to beat him up, because he'll block a lot, and then he'll do the twirl, and then he'll do the machine gun thing. And that's one thing that I think sounds a little bit out of character. He just goes like, sucka. It sounds like something Mr. T would say, not this weird cybernetic pirate guy. And the cool part is that he doesn't shoot it from a machine gun, he shoots it from the implant in his head, which is really cool in my opinion. And you'll see me desperately trying to jump out of the way of the machine gun. Which is not always the easiest thing. And then you can see more of that, like, flashing red shadow thing, which, as I said, I initially thought that was a glitch in the game. But it turns out that's just how the game's supposed to be. Oh, and there you go, I kicked him in the crotch there. Which, any male character is susceptible to that. And honestly, I always think it's funny. And a lot of times when you continue the game, it will give you a handgun. Kind of like if you had died in Metal Slug, you'll get a heavy machine gun or whatever that game's power-up. Most often it's a heavy machine gun in most of the Metal Slug games. But I definitely have to say I love my beat-em-ups, and this is a very fun game.
Thank you for saving my life again.
And now my only guess with her comment of thank you for saving my life again is that she's the same daughter from the first game, and I guess she just got kidnapped again. She kind of sounds like Mokuba Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh! She just gets kidnapped all the time, and that's like kind of her thing. But yeah, Dynamite Deca 2/Dynamite Cop is an excellent game that I recommend for single-player play, or if you have a friend who can join in with you on either the arcade version that I have here, or the Dreamcast version that is, of course, a bit more common. And as I had mentioned in one of my pickup videos, the main reason that I got this board, which came without the metal cage, is I wanted to be able to play Fighting Vipers, but it turns out it was cool that I had gotten a game with it. And I figured if the board's good, that's good. If the game's good, that's a bonus. But highly recommend getting this game. It's really good, and there's your little game over because you can't play anymore. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.